Hello, good morning. Today we're going to look at the Jim Dine workshop and the actual practical aspects of it and getting the work done. We're looking at some of the kind of tools that you would use, in this case old paintbrushes from my garage. So I've got some of the most raggedy paintbrushes you can imagine. We've got some examples of Jim Dine's work using different materials. We've got some previous students' work as well who graduated a couple of years ago. Different examples to see the quality and the way that they reproduced it. I've got an example of the materials that we'll be using. So pencils, broken pencils, I'll come to that later. Rubbers, paintbrushes, a little bit of water. We've got some charcoal. We'll find a way of getting around using charcoal. Pritt stick and some different assortments of paper as well. So I'm going to select one of the brushes, one of the more interesting ones. I want something that's kind of all wide and damaged up, so I kind of like this one because some of the bristles are really sticking out on it, and it's paint, and you can see it's been something that's been well used. And again, this follows in with what Jim Dine did. Again, these brushes have kind of almost served the shelf life, and they would have been thrown away, and he wanted them to last forever in one of these pieces of art. Okay, so here's the brush that we've selected. Again, I wanted one that's quite distinctive and got some marks on it, and I'm going to lay it on the paper. Now, this was an observational drawing exercise, so ideally we should be drawing freehand from this with the object in front of us. What I'm going to allow you to do on this for your first brush is just allow you to just trace around the outside edge of it. Think about a brush, how it's symmetrical. Well, it is up until it gets to there. Like the shape of a wine glass, and a lot of people, a lot of artists over the years have really struggled with being able to create this idea of symmetry. So I'm going to allow you on this very first one to just trace around the outline of it. So with your pencil, I'll put it in the centre of the page as well just to frame it. With your sharpest pencil, just hold your brush down and just go around the outside of the handle of the brush. Okay. Just take your time. And again, I'm using a really faint line here. And faint means it's just light, okay. And this allows you to, don't worry too much about this, that allows you to make any corrections later. Okay, just put a little pencil mark in there where the metal part of the paintbrush finishes and the bristles start. Okay, and then one there as well. Okay, so you can now remove your brush away, take your ruler, okay, and just draw a line across, in that case. Now, what Jim Dine did, and still does in his work, to isolate the objects off the background, and it's something that we've spoken about in art in the lesson as well. It's one of the criteria for this, is looking at the negative space, and the negative space is the shape that's around the outside edge. In Jim Dine's case, that was very, very important. One thing it does is it emphasises and brings out the object and lifts it up away from the paper. Typically, artists, including Jim Dine himself, would use these charcoals, which are very, very expensive, and I'll just show you an effect that they give. Okay, so basically charcoal is just burnt little twigs. Okay, so that started out as a branch on a tree. It's been put in a fire and superheated till it carbonises, and it gives you that effect. For an artist, what that allows you to do is do your lines, and then you can smear it, and you can add weight again, or make it darker, add a darker tone. Okay, and you can do graduation, so the further you pull it, again, you'll see that fade effect. Okay, again, you may be able to get these if you're looking around. The range do them, okay, not to this quality, and they won't last as long. But what we've done, I found a little cheat. Okay, so I've took an old pencil, okay, and I've broke it in half, and I've tried to extract some of the lead out of it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take the piece of graphite. I'm just going to grind it down to a little powder. Okay, so essentially it's becoming almost like charcoal. You can see that effect. And then you can go around the edges of the brush itself. gives that shadow effect. So you would be taking much longer to do this. So you can bring some emphasis back in by bringing in your pencil, keeping that line, using cross hatching or shading to get closer to the line itself. Again, keep putting your graphite in. You can actually place it directly near to the brush. If there's areas where you don't want it to go on, where it's just gone across, you can just blow it and you'll get a really clean line. If you see that effect again, just do it there. You can smear it to the handle, the edge of the handle, like that. And then blow the rest away. Okay, your finger will get dirty, so it's only graphite. Okay, as long as you don't put it in your mouth, but just remember to wash your hands before you're having anything to eat. And again, if you can see this like smoothing effect now as you move away from the object itself, it gives a really nice shadow. It's almost photographic in the way it appears. Again, you might want to wash your finger every now and again just in case you get any marks on here. So again, you can bring out the outline just so you can see it a little clearer. And then bring your graphite in. Gives you this beautiful sort of graduation away from it, a really strong shadow. Again, if we look at the work that Jim Dine has done, we'll just do a comparison at this stage. You can see these very, very strong shadows, and again that gives it this impression that it's three-dimensional, that it's coming up away from the paper. Okay, don't be disheartened at this stage. It's kind of really starts to come alive as you go around the full object. Again, this is an exercise in looking at the work where we're looking at getting a better grade. So what you're being marked on here is this ability to be able to use tone in the work. So this idea from going from light, okay, so the white paper, we're using the white of the paper. Think about that. That's free. We've already got that given to us. It's as white as white can be. And again, we're working through this tonal range here. So the tone is the distinction between light and dark. So you can put the shadow closer to the edge there. I'm just going to work a little quicker now just to get something in. Coming from this side so you can see. It actually gives a really nice sort of dusting effect as well, which would be very, very hard to create that using a pencil. So again, if you want to just anything that's gone onto areas that you don't want, you can just blow them away and it comes up really clean. Again, you can redefine areas and bring a nice sharp line in. Now, to create the idea of the metal going across the front, you can use masking tape. If you can find some of this in the garage or workshop, maybe some lying around in a drawer, masking tape's really good. You can use sellotape, but sellotape's really, really sticky, and you have a problem with that as you peel the sellotape off, it might tear the paper. So what you can do with masking tape is take some of the tackiness off it. So use your fingers, maybe some of the grease on your finger, or a little bit of the pencil. Okay, because we want to keep that area as kind of white and silvery, you know, so it's reflective and you can see the highlights in there. So I'm just going to place that onto there. Just give it a gentle press. You don't need to really press down hard because it will tear. Then I'm going to use one of the fine liner pens. So we put our masking tape down, okay, and this will give us a nice crisp line now. Now a lot of people get worried about being able to draw the white lines. I'm just trying to give you some idea that we can save. I'll go from the top. Okay, so we've got our masking tape in place. I've got our fine liner pen. You could use a biro pen. Yep. And again, this is where the observational drawing part comes in now. So you can really look at the paint bristles. So bring the bristles up close to the brush, and we put the masking tape in because that is going to give us a really good start point. So all your brushes are all in a nice, all the start of the bristles are all in a really nice line. And all you need to do is just bring them from the pencil, from the tape, sorry, and just keep going along to the edge. This might take quite a while, so some of the bristles are light, some are dark, some have little pieces of paint stuck to them. And again, what it does is it gives this tonal range as well. This is really going to pop now. Ideally, just start from one end and work upwards. Okay, so think about where the brushes, the bristles radiate from, this part of the paintbrush. So it's much more dense there, it's much darker in its colours. Incidentally, this part of the paintbrush, the metal part, is called a ferrule, which I found out the other day. So you can put that in your Word notebook, a ferrule. Again, some of the bristles, because they're old, because the paintbrush is very old, you can change the angles. We want it to look a bit grungy, a little bit dishevelled. Okay, so they might change direction. Again, you can be using your observational drawing, but to get it exact, or you can just add a little bit of your own creativity into this. Freestyle it. Kind of drawing that becomes so realistic looking that people think it's a real paintbrush. Again, the examples that we've had from pupils in the past who passed the GCSEs, they've done this as well and done their own versions of it from it. They've expanded on this idea and used painting, they've used wax, encaustic into the paint bristles, and again, when examiners have looked at the work, they're really impressed with the quality and the experimentation. So this is just a starting point. By all means, if you feel capable to draw the brush freehand, you know, please do so, have a go at it. But this is just to encourage you to just give it a go. You can see the tonal range here now. It's nothing like, it's very grey compared to the black of this. So again, it takes quite a lot. So you just keep doing this until you've got a very, very black area there. If you've got, in this case, where the bristles are sticking out, it's not really working. The fine liner pens kind of react against the graphite and slide across it, so you could use a pyro pen. Yeah? And there you what that has no problem about. You can bring these in. Here we can see how it's working. In fact, the biro pen now, which is probably much more readily, you'll always find a biro pen at home in a drawer. Okay, maybe a school bag or something. Okay, again, keep checking your lead on your pencil, on your pen, because the graphite does have a tendency to block. There's a little ball bearing inside it. So just keep going over it. And again, now I'm really happy with this now. It's starting to give me that tonal difference. Getting that really crisp. So very, very black colour to it. Okay, you'll see the effect shortly. Now we remove the tape. Think about the edge. It's not as crucial the edge, especially on an old brush like this, because you can see how well used it is. So some of the bristles have wore out. Some of them have, they're at all different levels. Probably not a very good paintbrush for painting doors and things anymore. So again, going back to how Jim Dine would have worked and his thoughts behind objects like this. That these were consumable items that would have had a certain life. Once they've passed their use anymore, they're discarded and put in the bin. So in his belief, he thought that these brushes that kind of represent creative art and painters been using them over years and years, that idea that he could make something onto canvas of a paintbrush itself. Again, something that artists use and actually immortalise it, so it will be there forever. People can look at it and admire the work, and so much so that his items, his paintings of these brushes and tools, implements, all different kinds, screwdrivers, saws, they're now worth hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. So they exchange in auction houses. His work's worth a heck of a lot of money. So if you can just go online and Google them, you can actually see the different work in the galleries all around the work. His art is taken very, very seriously. For the fact that he was the first person who decided to work like that, so he was unique in that way. He came up with this idea of just doing these paintbrushes and tools and painting things in a kind of series way, where he would look for every different kind of paintbrush he could find and then paint that. So almost like a collection of different brushes. Sometimes he displayed them, so the brushes were on like paint racks hung up. So if you check some of his work, he would paint them like this, where we're looking at it from in a portrait pose, but he would group pictures so the bristles were facing up, facing down. Okay, so we've got that kind of thing up to tone now. So when I now pull this back, very, very slowly, because the tack of the masking tape can damage the paper. If it does, make sure your fingernail's clean. If it does tear the paper, what you can do is use the shininess of your fingernail. You can burnish it back down, smooth it out. That's something that you can do. So again, what we can do now is, again, recycle this little piece of paper. We can put that on that line. Again, just a little bit of pressure, and then we could add some tone. So here's where you can start now to add in some of your observational drawing skills. So we could bring this little line in here, this curve. Okay. And again, I'm just using a faint sort of little construction line. Okay, and then just a little bit of shade into there, because there's a curve there. There's a curve down this side of the handle as well. Again, we can pick up some of the graphite there, just to give this rounded handle effect. It's starting to curve forwards. We could even put in, if you just shade there very, very closely, the shadow line between the ferrule and the wooden handle itself. So it's this idea, this is purely observational drawing. You're looking round for all the tiny now details, and again it's that close observation in a drawing that impresses anybody looking at the work. They you know, this like exquisite detail that they see. You can look at the wood grain in the brush, okay, or some of the cracks in the varnish, and you could bring in tiny little pencil marks and just echo the shape of the brush handle itself. Okay. Might be hard to see on the camera this, but it's thinking about those shapes and they go thinner and closer. There's blobs of paint on here. You can always put something over the top of that later. Could actually put real paint. You know, we could use the paint that out of the can that you might find in the garage or workshop, and just think, well, I'm just going to use the actual real paint on there, and that would look really impressive as well. And again, using different mediums, and you using actual real household paint. So you could write in the corner of it how you've done this technique as well. You could put a small annotation in there that you've used pencil to draw. You use graphite, biro pen, fine liner pens. You may want to do a colour wash on it. You may want to do a tonal wash just to bring out your details. There's the wood grain effect that's coming in. Again, if you want to make the edges more defined, kind of bring your pencil line in just to pull that shape back out. Bring some tone in there as well. The actual white makes you believe in the brushes that there's actually white paint stuck to the bristles themselves. I'm just going to put a few more kind of rogue, kind of getaway bristles in here. Pull that back and reveal it. You can see these little ridges here. Again, you can use your ruler. Some angles, nice, yeah. Keeping your ruler there, it keeps a nice crisp edge, so it looks like a highlight on the ridge. Screws, nails that hold the ferrule on. Again, you can create this idea of it banding under here, just to give you more shade, definition. Ruler. Again, I'm rushing this. You'd spend a lot longer on this trying to get it right. Maybe just start off with the outline at first and then just build it up slowly. Take a breather, have a look. If you want to carry on, you can go back. Do lots of different outlines. You could group them up so you've got different paint brushes. You know, your next one could be that way. You might select a different brush like that. you can have some overlap in the others as just an outline. Okay. One of the other techniques we thought about using is bringing another element into it, so you could use different pieces of paper. Torn edges always look nice. So you might want to just, you can actually glue over the top of that with some Pritt stick. And again, the torn edges look good because they kind of lend it to the tattiness of the brush. Bring that there. And then do a very graphic brush. You might want to change the position. You can allow it to move around to see how you like the balance of the picture. Maybe on this one you could just go around the outside with a biro pen. Again, it's experimenting. You can build these up, put them in your folder, put them in somewhere, and when you come back, when school reopens, we can just put these, insert these into your folder, and it really complements the work that you've done already. Okay, finish the top of that later. Again, basically just go around loosely around the outline of the brushes. And again, there's an area now for you to be able to work in any way that you want to. Again, it could be adding colour, it could be adding lots of much darker tones. The paint effects on here, again using some of the old paint from the garage or workshop, and you're slowly building this up. It could start with just one basic drawing, but it could end up where it's a group of different images, a group of different brushes all together on the same page. Okay, thank you, have fun.